Okay, here's your notes. This is for section 2.2 on ecological pyramids. And so we'll look at like what these pyramids mean. So the pyramid of energy, pyramid of biomass, pyramid of numbers, what each of those means, and kind of how we get to those. Okay, so first we'll talk a little bit about scientific models. Okay, so scientific models often, or scientists often use models to help them understand how living things function. Basically, models are just ways to help us visualize something that has not been directly observed. And so when you think of like in science 10, when we were talking about like the model of an atom, again, we had the different like the Raisenbund model, the Bohr's model, the planetary model, all of those. Okay, they're just a way to help us visualize it. You can't actually see the atom and know exactly what it looks like, again, because the electrons move and there's so much, it's a lot more complicated. So we make up these models to kind of help us visualize that. Okay, another example of a model is like with dinosaurs. We find different bones, things like that, and then we construct them and make a model of them to the best of our abilities. Okay, so the advantage of scientific models is they provide a pathway for them making predictions. Okay, and then scientists often use mathematical models to kind of predict future things or just use predictions. Like I know our most current model of the atom is based on a mathematical process and not just on a visual or um, simple model like the planetary model or anything like that. Okay, so there's 3 steps in formulating a mathematical model. First, make an estimate and develop an equation. Then use the equation to make a prediction and compare the prediction to future or past events. Okay, if the evidence gathered does not support the model, then that model is rejected. So in ecology, scientists use 3 different types of mathematical models to explore energy and matter exchange in the ecosystems. Okay, the graphs that we call ecological pyramids can be used to represent energy flow in food chains and food webs or the populations of organisms in a food chain. Okay, these help ecologists to visualize relationships in ecosystems and make comparisons between ecosystems. Okay, so there's 3 different types of ecological pyramids we have to look at and know: the pyramid of numbers, pyramid of biomass, and pyramids of energy. So pyramids of numbers are kind of the simplest one. A pyramid of numbers can be drawn by counting the number of organisms at each trophic level in an ecosystem. Typically, when we graph these out vertically, we end up with a pyramidal shape. If you think of like the amount of producers, there's usually a lot more plants than there is like consumers that are eating those plants. And so pyramid would look something like this. So in the first trophic level, we have 100,000 grass. Okay, in the second trophic level, there's like 50,000 grasshoppers, snails, slugs, those things that eat the grass. Third trophic level, okay, 105 shrews, some moles, okay, things that will eat the grasshoppers, snails, and slugs. And then in the last trophic level, okay, our kind of top consumer, in this case is owls, there's only 9 owls. Okay, and so it looks like a pyramid because it starts fairly large at the bottom and gets smaller as you go up. Okay, this shape can change though depending on the ecosystem that we're looking at. Okay, so in some cases the shape is not pyramidal because of the physical size of the members of the food chain. Okay, and so if we think about like aphids or like some small insects, there's going to be a lot more of them than like if they're eating a single plant or a single tree or something. Okay, and so this example here, okay, again, a pyramid of numbers, it doesn't look like it doesn't have that pyramid shape because in our first trophic level, we have 50 oak, maple, and beech trees, which are producers. In our second trophic level, we have 100,000 aphids and other insects that eat from the trees. Okay, then the third trophic level, it starts to kind of even out and look more like our pyramid again. But just that's really the only pyramid is a pyramid of numbers that doesn't always look exactly like a pyramid. Okay, pyramid of biomass. So what biomass is the total dry mass of all the living materials in an ecosystem. So basically, if we suck the water out of everything, what is the mass left over? So biomass is the measure of basically stored energy. Again, like if we take the water out of everything, we're just left with like the energy, the protein, the carbohydrates, and so on. So if we look at two different ecosystems and their pyramid of the biomass, we have the rainforest and the tundra. So the rainforest would be able to store a large amount of energy from the sun. Therefore, it would contain a large amount of organic material and have a large total biomass. The tundra has a lot less energy because it doesn't have access to sunlight year round. Okay, and the sunlight it gets is because of the angle of our Earth is less intense than what it is at the equator where the rainforests are. So, and it would contain a smaller amount of organic matter. There's a lot less plant growth. Okay, so there's a lower total biomass. To create a pyramid of biomass, all the water is removed from each trophic level, leaving the dry mass of the tissues in plants and animals. Again, this is a mathematical model. Okay, we aren't actually going to pull any water out of animals or plants to see how much they weigh. It's our best guess. Okay, and most often it creates a pyramidal shape. Okay, ones that are not ones that do not are extremely rare. So most of these will be pyramid shapes. Okay, and so example here, okay, in our first trophic level, okay, we have 976 grams of mass of moss and algae, our different producers. Then our ducks would be our next trophic level, okay, 45 grams, and then again the falcons on top, okay, around 9 grams of biomass. Okay, and the last type of pyramid, ecological pyramid, is the pyramid of energy. It also is possible to measure the amount of energy available at each trophic level. So as we have learned, most energy at each level of the food chain is used and or is lost as heat. Okay, only a fraction of it passes on to each level. So I talked a bit about that in the last set of notes. It's about 10%. And so if we're drawing a pyramid of numbers, okay, as an example, okay, the producers number of organisms, okay, would be 100. Okay, let me see if I can get a drawing tool. I'm not sure where to. Here. Okay, I'm not sure if I'm able to draw this, but like in this one, it wouldn't be the pyramid shape because our number of producers, is a lot less than our number of first level consumers, but then it kind of evens out. All right. With a pyramid of energy, did I miss it? Yeah. Okay. Pyramid of energy. Okay. So our food chain that we're looking at for this, we have the phytoplankton, zooplankton, herring, and salmon. So if the phytoplankton and ecosystem produce 20 million kilojoules of energy per day, how much energy is there available for the salmon? So again, the way you do it is just each level it goes up, it is only 10% moves on. So like the phytoplankton produce 20 million kilojoules. Okay. The zooplankton, you times that 20 million by 0.1, which is 10%. Okay, and so you get 2 million. Okay, and then times that by 0.1. And so the herring, the amount of energy the herring get is 200,000. And then you times that by 0.1. And so the amount, how much energy is available for the salmon would be 20,000 kilojoules. Okay, so each level, just take this, start with this number for the phytoplankton, times it by 10% or 0.1 decimal 1. Okay, you get, basically you're just taking a zero off of these each level you move up. And so yeah, solution. Oh, I'd usually do that there, but on the board. Okay, suppose each herring requires 100 or 1,000 kilojoules of energy per day to survive. How many herring can survive in this system? So for this one, so we know that the amount of energy available to the herring is 200,000 kilojoules. So since each herring needs 1,000 kilojoules, we just divide that total number by 1,000. And so we could find, so like we have 200,000 divided by 1,000. This ecosystem can support about 200 herring. Okay, using the information calculated, draw a pyramid of energy for this food chain. Okay, so pyramid of energy, you would just, and the bottom level would have that 20 million, next level would be 2 million, then 200,000, then their top level would be 20,000. Okay, there's an example on page 32, or you can try it on your own, page 32, number 3. You're going to be doing some of these in your notes or like your assignment. As far as like for your assignment, it's always kind of hard to draw out things like pyramids, but like if you just write the different levels, like just and use enter to give yourself space. So like the bottom level, if we were doing that, we'd just do 20 million, then 2 million, and like just put them on top of each other so I can kind of get the picture. All right, human use of energy. So humans are also dependent on the energy flow through our ecosystems. We use energy from food we eat to fuel our metabolic processes, just like any other organism. But unlike other organisms, we use energy in other ways as well. Okay, we burn wood for fuel. Okay, we use energy trapped in it by photosynthesis, is what basically burns, is that energy. Okay, our use of energy often changes the ecosystem we are in. So ecosystems can adapt to small changes like the removal of salmon in this case. Okay, large changes can permanently change the type and size of populations found in certain ecosystems. So examples of ways we have permanently changed ecosystems is through like hunting, fishing, and extensive crop growth. Okay, when we clear a field of all its trees and grasses and natural things to plant our own crops, okay, we're changing that ecosystem. Not that we need some of that, we need a lot of that stuff for us to live, but at the same time, we're changing a lot of what was there before. Okay, hunting and fishing. So with wildlife management, it involves the manipulation of populations of wild species and their habitat for the benefit of humans. And so basically, like we've hunted and overfished many organisms in the past, there's no really limits. Where now, especially if you hunt or fish, like you have to get a license. Depending on the deer population of that year, they only give out so many tickets and you can only hunt that many. Again, same with fishing. Okay, they've restricted where people can fish now, and like if you could just get a fishing license for a local river or a lake, you can only take so many out. Okay, and they only pass out so many fishing licenses. Okay, because and if you've seen different movies like I don't know, the penguin one, Happy Feet, and things like that. It was causing these extinctions. Okay, extinctions again is the loss of a species on Earth. Extirpation just means that species is no longer where it used to be. So they might have that species other places, but it's not like in its natural habitat where it used to be. Okay, you have many different organisms in our country. And so, conservation biologists understand that hunting and fishing can be used to actually help control the population growth, but it needs to be done in a controlled way so as not to drastically reduce population sizes in any permanent way. There are cases where if you take out one of the top predators, like taking out the wolves in a area, well, now that means there's going to be a higher population of deer in that area, which then eat all the grasses and make other populations go down. And so if we use hunting to kind of get rid of some of that deer population, we can control the rest of the populations. Okay, with as far as crop growth and things like that, monocultures. So historically, humans have used about 700 different species of plants. Today, we really rely on about 20 different species. Okay, some examples like wheat, corn, barley, rice, and cotton being the most important species that we grow. So most human agriculture has been focused on producing just these 20 different, mostly food crops. Okay, many of the wild plants that are useful to humans as well through creating different types of medicines and things like that. Okay, we aren't planting, and we're actually getting rid of a lot of those wild plants. Okay, we call them weeds, but they were here for a reason. They are here first. Okay, rainforests all over the world are being cut down. Okay, and so we can again cultivate the land and produce these monocultures that are being planted in this place. So this leads to a change in the soil composition, which changes the nitrogen and phosphorus cycles, okay, which we'll talk about in the next chapter, so drastically that after just a few seasons, the soil will no longer support the growth of crops. So you'd think like in a rainforest, it'd have really good soil. Okay, there's lots of things that grow there. And so people are like, well, we'll grow crops there. But the problem is they take all the nutrients out of their crops because of the monocultures. And then after just a few seasons, now nothing will grow there. Okay, so what makes this situation even more critical is that the greatest biodiversity exists in the tropical rainforests, and many species haven't even been classified yet, let alone investigated for possible medicines. So if we get rid of the rainforests, we'll be causing permanent damage that cannot be reversed and may even lose a cure for cancer or other devastating diseases and so on. Okay, again, we don't have to worry about the questions. Just make sure you're getting your assignments done. Okay, watch hopefully this video, and I'm going to post a couple other videos that go along with it from the internet. They're kind of optional, but some of them are quite interesting. A lot of this stuff too is interesting if you watch different shows, like on Netflix. There's or I think it's on Disney. Well, there's all the different Our Earth shows and things like that. But one I just watched was Dangerous Planet or something like that, and it was kind of interesting and showed some of how things are changing in each ecosystem.